Howdy, folks. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, Katie and I are going to be answering a few questions that we've received from you listeners. And as I've said before, we really enjoy doing this because it's a way for us to hear about what you're considering in your life, the various topics you're pondering, maybe with your spouse or in your home. And so we like discussing them because on some of these questions, we've got strong opinions. On some of these questions, we've never considered them before, and so we're kind of exploring them for the first time, which is always fun. And yeah, so it's always a fun discussion for Katie and I, and we appreciate you all taking the time to put these questions in the question box, and giving us some material to speak to. I do want to say thank you to all of you who have left ratings and reviews on iTunes. That is such a gift to Katie and I, not only because of the encouragement we receive from reading your ratings or reading your reviews, but that also helps our podcast reach more people. So if you do enjoy this podcast, please leave a rating or review on iTunes, maybe even share it to your social media platforms. And then if you watch our podcast on YouTube, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, or if you like the video or comment, we enjoy that. Or not, we do enjoy that, but that also helps our podcast grow. And we like doing this. And so we want it to continue to grow and reach people and bless people. And we really appreciate, just the interactions we get with you, because as we've said before, Katie and I are in the thick of it. I mean, we've got 5 young children, and we want to view ourselves as students first and foremost, and being in having learning mindsets and growth mindsets as we are in the thick of raising our children. And being able to hear from like-minded Christians is so beneficial to us. And so thank you all for the interaction and the engagement you give us. Anyways, let's get this thing rolling.
The Now That We're a Family podcast.
Okay, so this is going to be a more lighthearted episode. We just got back from Thanksgiving with my family, and my voice is out. I have a very vocal family. There's a lot of them. And then, so like we did Thanksgiving, I guess, with my 10 siblings and their spouses and kids, which was amazing. And then we did an extended Thanksgiving. We rolled right into hanging out with all my dad's side of the family and his 8 siblings and their kids and spouses and kids. And everyone's really, really loud, and there's a lot of people, and I rose to the occasion.
Well, you have to. That's the only option, really. If you want to be heard, or if you even just want to have a conversation, you really have to speak at a high volume. And your grandpa because Katie's parents and her siblings are living with their grandpa right now, or he's living with them. And he just kept walking around telling everybody to quiet down. It was so funny. He's saying, stop yelling. Because if you guys just calm down and listen to each other, these conversations would be so much more profitable and enjoyable.
Yeah, but it's a little too late because...
Oh, yeah. I mean, he started the whole thing.
He raised all his kids that way. So it's always kind of funny when he comes in. It's like you can't blame him because it's actually right.
Yes.
But it's like 50 decades too late.
It is. And he's kind of a yeller, like in a good way. Like he comes in.
Yeah, it's not like yelling angry. It's just yelling because you're excited.
He's excited.
What you're sharing.
Exactly.
So anyways, but I realized like my voice is I really depend on this thing. Because one, we have the podcast, and then our reading times. I read like all day long. And so we all really miss out when my voice is out.
The kids have been talking about that because we've been home for, I guess, 3 or 4 days.
Yeah. And
your voice went out really the day after we got back. And the kids were looking forward to getting back to their reading time with you because they were missing it the entire time we were gone. And now that your voice went out, they are just desperate for read aloud time, which I've been doing a little bit more of the read aloud time.
Yeah, you have. It's been fun. And then the times when I've done it, I'm like, okay, everybody has to be very quiet. And I just have this very little quiet monotone voice. Anyways, so we're going to be answering some of these questions for you, though. But we're going to stick to more of the lighthearted ones tonight.
We'll see. I mean,
that's what we say when we start. I like to save the heavier ones for when we can like really dig into it. But okay, do you have one or do you want me to ask you one?
Why don't you start?
Okay, Elisha, do you ever miss working in real estate? If so, what part?
Yeah, out of all my past careers, real estate is the one I miss the least. And I would say that I don't know if there's ever an aspect of real estate that I miss, even as we purchased a home and we'll variously look at properties or homes with realtors. And I mean, your uncle, one of my best friends is a realtor. And so I feel like I talked to him a fair bit about the industry and our local market. But short answer to the question is no, I do not miss real estate. I do miss the service industry many times. I know that's not the question, but I'm going to answer the question I wish they asked. I really miss the coffee shop environment from time to time. I spent so many years working at coffee shops, and then I worked in restaurants for many years too. And as much as I was excited to get out of that field, primarily just because of the earning cap, on that, like the ceiling is obviously relatively low. The job itself was always fun to me. It's just a good old time. And so there are various aspects about the food industry that I miss.
Yeah. Hindsight's also rose-colored glasses.
Yeah, that's how the saying goes.
Because, man, I do not miss you being in the service industry and coming home.
No, the cons.
So mad.
Definitely. The cons outweighed the pros. The hours were so tough for our family.
But you had a lot of really awesome coworkers at some of the places you worked. And
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll go.
Go ahead.
You just went. All right. What degree did Katie get in college and why? And is it beneficial for what she does now?
Okay, good question. I didn't see that one. Yeah, so I got a bachelor's of English, and I could have gone the route of English literature or English writing, and I went with English writing. So that may or may not surprise some of you guys, depending on what you've read. If you see my grammar, you might think that's surprising. But obviously, some of my captions on Instagram and stuff like that are where I feel like I really got to have my voice come across when it came to writing. And writing's always been a passion of mine since reading, Little House on the Prairie and the One Room Schoolhouse kind of thing. And then reading Little Women and having Joe be the writer. The writer or the teacher always were like the romantic careers.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want both of those. That's what I want to be. I want to be a teacher of English.
And Shirley. Another
Another one. Yeah. It was just like, if you're an English teacher and a writer, you always get the guy. And so it worked out.
Apparently. Is that your dating advice?
You've got a little smudge advice
on one of your teeth too.
Oh, do I?
Right there. I just now noticed it. I don't think people will see it in the camera unless they rewind.
Is it gone?
Yeah, it's gone. Yes, looks good.
Okay, thanks. Let me know if that happens again. I'm missing my regular lip gloss.
Yeah, no, it looks great. I literally, I would have told you earlier if I noticed earlier, but I told you as soon as I noticed.
Thank you. You're awesome. So anyways, that said, yeah, so I think it serves me a ton in my life. And that's the thing. I'm a kind of person that likes to think win-win. I didn't want something that wasn't going to serve me regardless of how life looked. So I felt like if I stayed single, it'd be an awesome just life skill to have. If I got married, it would be a great life skill to have. And it has. It served us really well. I feel like any form of communication that causes you to process your thoughts and be clear on what you're trying to communicate. And, now as a homeschooling mother, I use that a lot and on this podcast. And
yeah. I agree. I'm sure actually, probably goes without saying that degrees they can be they vary in their application to your life. Right. Mm-hmm. But I do think that you and I both adhere to the proverb, in all labor, there is profit. And I say that there are some really stupid degrees people can get and probably have gotten, but I think that you would even you would claim that to be a truth too in finishing your school. Say, hey, in all labor, there is a level of profit, growing in character, growing in discipline, seeing tasks through, being a problem solver.
Yeah, self-management, time management, answering to someone aside from your parents. I was homeschooled, and so it really does change the game when you're answering to a professor. And so for those of you who aren't familiar with how I did school, we've gotten some flack with our statement that, may or may not change, but our goal, I guess, being that we would like all of our children to have a college degree, not because you need a college degree. It is just a piece of paper in a lot of instances, but sometimes it's a handy piece of paper to fall back on. And so while we would love our children to be entrepreneurial, that piece of paper is something we would like them to have. And we've gotten a little bit of pushback on that, I think, because most people are assuming that children will pick their own path when they're between 18 and 21. And that's definitely what we want for our children. We want them to graduate with that at around 18 years old.
Yeah.
And the reason why we have that goal is because that's what I did. I just turned 19 actually when I graduated. And it was really, really straightforward and simple. Now, obviously, I had an English degree. I was not a computer science major or, something more technical or whatever. Okay. It was like a very simple degree. But I started when I was 16 years old. I tested out in my first 2 years in 6 months. So I did CLEP tests. Elisha did some CLEP tests too.
Yep.
And like sociology, I studied for 2 days. But some of the other classes like psychology and natural sciences and my math classes and stuff like that, I studied for about 3 to 4 weeks. And then I would go in and I would test out of the course. So that's a really awesome way. If you have, if you are homeschooling or you're not sure what you're going to do for your kids' college, it cuts the cost way down because you're only spending like $100, or I think I was paying $60 a class at the time.
Yeah.
To pass the test. And it saves you so much time. Again, I got the AA in 6 months.
Right.
And then transferred to Thomas Edison University. I've never been there. I did it all completely online. I did my upper level classes through there. And I decided to do English writing instead of English literature because there's a lot of just like junk in literature, especially you have to study a lot of authors whose lives weren't really that admirable and their works, frankly, weren't that admirable either. And so, yeah, I don't know. So that's what we want to do with our kids, I guess, is we really would like them to, if that's still an option,
Sure.
when they are, in their early teens, to be able to test out, really speed up their degree. I graduated with the 4-year accredited degree for $14,000.
Yeah.
Like my dad did pay for it, which I was really grateful for. But I mean, $14,000, that's a really good deal.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm great. I mean, I'm grateful for it.
And then I was able to move on with my adult life, I guess.
Yeah.
And I was able to do that the whole time, living with my family, traveling with my family, working, all that stuff. So
Yeah. I think, yeah, I'm with you. I mean, our kids are going to be doing some academics until they're 17, 18, probably.
Yeah.
And that's just how it usually works. And so you may as well set a higher standard for what they're going to be doing and get some college credit while they're doing that.
yeah, I think a lot of people who have done their college degree would agree that your first 2 years of general ed are basically just a repeat of high school. So until you're getting into the specialization of your degree, you're just doing a lot of repeat work. So anyways, yeah, that's kind of our whole college philosophy. We'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Okay, my turn to
Okay,
ask
go
you,
for it.
right?
Go for it.
Well, I mean, why don't you ask yourself a question? Do you have one that you want to answer?
You don't have one ready? Man.
I was just answering. I'm also insecure about my lipstick on my teeth.
I think you got it. Oh, let me see.
The combination of my lipstick
and
my voice is just like really making this.
You sound great.
Situation.
You look even better.
Okay, someone asked, are you going to be showing your children anymore on... Okay, hold on. I saw it and then I lost it. Wow. Okay. Well, I lost it. But someone asked, are we going to be showing our children anymore publicly or even on our paid platforms at some point?
Oh, yeah. Ideally not. I mean, I just sent out some photos on our email. So I would say not on social media, I think is if I'm.
Yeah. Not publicly online.
Yeah.
Like everything will be behind some kind of a filter.
Yeah.
I guess you should say, you could say.
Yeah. I feel like there's a little bit more safety in the sense that the likelihood of people being more supportive of who we are and what we're doing is greater if they are subscribed to our email or if they're in one of our programs. And then, things are so easy to go, maybe viral online. And I like eliminating that option when it comes to our children. Mm-hmm. Clearly, we've had our kids online a lot in these last 5 years. And we just want to move away from it, I think. Would you agree? Yeah,
it's funny. Like we didn't feel convicted about it before. Mm-mm. People would come and bring their concerns to us. Not like our parents or people, but just people we'd meet along the way, in conversation. Like, are you guys worried about your kids being online? And we never were until we were.
Yeah.
And then once we were just like, it's not worth it. I think there was this element of wanting to show the dynamic inside a home for those that it would be helpful for. And so we didn't want to give that up really in the beginning, because we heard from you guys how much you appreciated that and how much you enjoyed seeing it. And so that was really enjoyable for us. But having a camera in our home has never been ideal. And then the other thing is just, we want people to have the opportunity for as few opinions about our children as possible. I probably said that in a really weird way. But yeah, we just don't want to I don't want my child, being 12, 13, 14, 15, getting online and reading all these comments about them. And that's already a really tough time in a child's life. And it's just really a bummer if you find all this stuff online. So if people don't see our kids online, then they can only assume what our children are like. And it's also kind of hard because I'm really proud of our kids.
Yes.
I think they're awesome, and I love to share them with you guys, but it won't be something that we're doing publicly.
Yeah. And again, I mean, like I said, we were just with family for Thanksgiving, and siblings and aunts and uncles that were sharing videos or photos of the family gatherings online, and we're not hyper paranoid about that.
Yeah, we aren't like freaking out and shutting everything down from like, what? Put a sticker over our kid's face. Like, that's not where we're at, but we aren't personally sharing our children online. And although I will say I was a little bit hesitant about it when I saw some of the stuff getting posted this last week.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know. I might get a little bit more like, be that annoying mom later on in life. But right now it's just not a big deal. And we aren't like swearing to some kind of standard here. It's just as we feel comfortable.
Yeah.
If I share a day in the life or a homeschool day in the life or something for a homeschool group, or for the Get It All Done Club, if my children show up in a video because I'm taking you guys on a more private tour of our home or whatever, those might be things that we do in the future, and the kids might pop up. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do like what you said, we had zero conscience issue with it until we did. And it's one of those things where it is kind of nice to have those moments where you feel like the Lord really is directing you, and being like, wow, like I said, I had zero conviction about this. And then one day I woke up and I did have a conviction about it. I think that might be from the Lord. And you can really be, I don't know, grateful that he is guiding and directing us in that way. And, with some of these things that are new, right? There's not a how-to guide, in the Bible on how much to present your children online or what to present. And so we're figuring this thing out with the rest of our generation on how much we're going to have our kids online.
Yeah. So I think it can be unhealthy either way, because I think it could be unhealthy with the negative side. And then with kids that are more, they like the limelight a little bit more, it could feed that a little too early. And we just don't want them to be worried about how they're appearing online. We want them to just be able to be a kid.
Yes.
And not worry about how many likes something's getting.
Wow.
Or if people say they like them, or, it's hard enough to deal with both sides as an adult.
Yeah.
And it's just not something that I would wish on my children.
Yes. Same. Okay. I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
Are you guys involved in ministries at your church?
Okay. Well, I wouldn't actually say we're involved in ministries at our church. We obviously give to our church, and we're a part of our home group at our church. And I'm really grateful for the support that is, and that I really feel like everybody, it's a pretty big group, like probably 14 or 15 families, and everyone really ministers to each other. I know we've been huge recipients of that ministry when it comes to meals and help with children, and just help. If you need help, you've got a lot of people available. But we aren't like, it's not a specific ministry at this point that we are heading up or a part of. Yeah,
I would say that we are part of,
okay.
Only in that we don't head up any ministries.
Yeah.
But I do think like the Tuesday night group that we are a part of really is a collaborative effort, even though clearly the Delahooks carry the weight of heading it up, and they organize everything. They they lead the discussion. They're the leaders of the group. They provide a lot of the meals, but you contribute big. Anytime you bring one of those meals, I mean, you're making a meal for how many people? 80, 60? How many people?
Yeah,
like
probably around
60 or 80 people.
We all share that responsibility. So,
So that's why I feel like we are
takes turns, buying and preparing a meal for everybody. And
and then I've played a handful of times. I've done music, and once again, that's something that I want to be able to be part of as time allows. But we aren't formally leading any church groups or heading up any local or any church ministries. But maybe in the future, I think we have a desire to do it.
A lot about it, and we would. I think, we'll just see what the Lord has and what the needs are of the church. You've talked to some of the elders about some things.
Yeah, I love the father-son ministry. I'm a part of at a different church. It's not our local church, but I go and I participate in the father-son ministry. So I would like at some point in the future to be able to head something up like that at our church.
Yeah, because it's really blessed you.
Yes.
And it would be something that our church could really benefit from. So
Yes.
that would probably be the first thing that we took on at our local body. But I don't know what the Lord has.
Yeah, and then as the kids are developing their music skills, I mean, we were all just playing tonight, and it's so fun to hear them progress. I would be so fun to lead worship as a family.
Yeah, we've talked about that too. It'd be
Yeah.
really fun to lead as a family.
So I think that's in our future at some point as well.
Yeah, so we will see.
You're next, Katie.
Okay. I always get so confused about these Q&As, and I know it's the most simple thing in the world. Could I just say a question that I'd want to answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Okay, so this one's to me. How would you order these items in terms of priority? Home, children, self, and public. So it's kind of fun because it sounds like a game on a phone that I used to have at one time where you order things in order of priority and then you get points or something. So how I would do this is children and self are really tricky. There's a really fine line because obviously children are the relationship. There's home, children, self, and public. The only relationship listed in this list are the children. And so I would say children first, but as kind of a part of that, taking care of yourself feeds into that. And this can get really blurry because it's really easy to start saying, I need my self-care in order to take care of my children well.
Yeah.
And straight up, that's not true. We can give from an empty cup. And we do.
That's when you
As
grow.
parents, we give from an empty cup all the time.
Right.
And the Lord is our strength. He's made perfect. His strength is made perfect in our weakness. And we aren't always rested and in good health and doing well when we are serving our children. So, but that said, I think we can do a lot more optimal job of that when we are taking care of and taking care of ourselves. So I would, those kind of go in and out of priority up there, I would say. And then after that, it's an easy home. Home needs to be in order before anything public is in order. The public is just a healthy public perception or public portrayal is what you practice at home and who you're actually being at home. And it's just an overflow of who you are at home. I think we've all known people or even, we've been those people at times where you go out in public, the home's not in a good place and you're faking it till you make it. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't feel good to you. It doesn't feel good to your kids. It doesn't feel good to your spouse. And it's often seen as a fraud from people in public. It's hard to give from that place. So that's easy. I would say the home is where everything actually happens. And the public is just an overflow of what's happening in the home.
Yeah, I think of that often with the Proverbs 31 woman who her children rise up and call her blessed and her husband is known in the gates. It's like you can't skip that one. You can't skip that they're taken care of. And then, she is out and she's considering a field and she's taking care of her servants and she's buying and selling and she's having obviously an impact in her community. And I would always say this, even prior to being married, my mother, who is, a Proverbs 31 woman through and through, I admire her so much. And when we would travel and perform, people would praise my mom and they'd be like, wow, she's so amazing. She's a great singer. She raised all these children. And I remember thinking as a young man, like you don't even get to see the best of her. Like knowing as a kid, we got the best of our mom at home, and being able to go perform concerts was an overflow. It was like an excess. It was the abundance. It was that hospitality piece where she always was her A game was at home. Mm-hmm. Like that's where she thrived, and she poured into us, and we always knew that. And then as a result of that, she is admired in the community. Her children rise up and call her blessed, and the impact that she now has at her local church and in her community is great. So, yeah.
That's so cool. I always felt that way too growing up. And like, yeah, obviously at home, you do get the good, the bad, and the ugly. So you see more of the arguments, but there's something really healthy and beautiful in that as well, because you also see the reconciliation that other people don't get to see.
Yes.
And so I think it's really beautiful, everything that you get to see in the home, in the workings of the home. And unfortunately, I think more often than not, it is assumed that when people are appearing well in public, that it is put on and that it's a show. I think often because of people's own experience, maybe in their homes. Because I know that growing up, we got accused of that all the time. Yeah. People would say my parents' marriage was fake, or that, we were fake and all that. And it was kind of sad, because I like to assume the best about people in public, because if we think that everything's fake, then there's nothing that encourages us to grow.
Right.
Like when I see someone whose kids are well behaved in public, or who are dressed nice in public, and a couple who seems to love each other in public, my first thought is not, oh, well, they're just putting on a show for me. No. It's like, wow, I want to grow to be able to be that way from an overflow. Yeah, I want to aspire to that. And maybe that isn't how it always is at home. But I think that for us as viewers, it is always healthier to take the option of aspiration and growth versus I'm going to poke holes in that so I don't need to feel the need to grow.
Yeah, boy, that's such a good mindset to have. I do think maybe a dangerous thing is idolization, is putting people on a pedestal. But I'm with you, Katie. You hear so quickly whether or not people have an attitude that wants to grow and they want to see growth in their home and their children develop and their marriage grow based off of whether or not, and I've been in that season before where I'm a total skeptic, and it's like, no, nobody's really that happy, or their kids are probably brats at home, or their kids are just acting that way because they're scared their dad's going to backhand them, when they get done, or like you just say all these things to maybe justify or validate your lack of intention in that area. And we do, it's easy to do it in any category of life. You see somebody saying whatever, great shape, and like, oh, they probably idolize that. They do it at the neglect of their marriage and their kids. Like they're in great shape, dude. It's just like, be okay that like he's like, that's a good thing. It's a good thing that he's in good shape.
Yeah, no, I agree. So anyways, what would you say?
What was the question?
It's your turn.
It's my turn. Oh, okay. Do you guys watch sports on TV? Do your boys like watching sports?
What would you say?
I'm asking you. I want to hear it from your perspective.
You're asking me?
Yeah, I feel this is the thing. I feel that question, like the wife always has a different answer than the husband. And so,
I'd be curious what you would say.
Well, let's just
so we don't have cable in our home. We don't have TV in our home. We don't. So when Elisha and I got married, I grew up not watching sports at all. We were a girl family. It just wasn't a thing. And then Elisha would watch highlights on his phone, and I'd really judge him for it. And so then he just took to sitting in our very, very tiny bathroom for hours at a time. I never knew where he was.
Never hours at a time.
It wasn't hours at a time. It felt like that when you're like the newlywed wife just sitting out on the couch waiting for your husband to get out of the bathroom. Anyways, it was probably like 15 minutes. And then every once in a while now, so then it stopped bothering me because Elisha just really doesn't sit around and watch sports. It's like a very rare thing when he will get on and check. And then every once in a while, and I don't follow the sports schedule, so I don't know when this is, for some reason, my email is always the email Elisha puts in, but I'll get like a charge for $7 for some streaming device. And I'm assuming that watching more than the highlights is more important for a week or two. and then it gets canceled.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how our experience with sports is. I'm really grateful. The boys are going to value whatever Elisha values. That's just the way it's going to be. And he knows that. And so I'm grateful for the intentionality that he has with things like sports, and knowing that they can become an escape or something that is just something that a man can abdicate. Like, he can abdicate his role as a father and a leader by just kind of existing and watching anything. But sports can be one of those things of kind of external. What do you call it? It's externally, when you're living through someone else, vicarious fulfillment. So I don't know. It's a very, very rare thing in our home. I mean, but I would say the boys have watched highlights with you, maybe like twice this year.
Yeah, that's how I was going to answer this.
I'm like thinking of the times. I'm like, I remember the times.
Yeah, and I will. I'm going to pat myself on the back here. I was going to say I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but then I was like, who am I fooling here? That's exactly what I'm about to do. This year especially has been the least sports media that I've consumed, probably since I was like 11 years old. And I guess I am a little bit proud of that, and that I feel like I'm replacing that with more beneficial things, and a huge, an impetus to trying to drive that, pull my media time back, sports media time back, was my sons. It was just objectively saying, like, is this who I want my boys to see me as? And with each year they grow older, I'm more and more convinced I want them to see me as the dad that's out doing stuff, not watching other guys do stuff. And I want to do stuff with them. And again, I'm trying to think if I've even, what is it, almost December now. And so, like NFL's, I don't even know how many weeks in the NFL is. And I don't think I've watched one game. If we're at a restaurant,
I haven't seen anything about the NFL.
Yeah. If we're at a restaurant, I'll look up, and I still know enough to like kind of care, I'll know which teams are, however they're doing, or who the quarterback is or whatever. But I don't think I've watched a game this season. And then I will say, at the end of the baseball season, the Mariners, my childhood, team, when I rooted for, they were kind of in a push there for.
I was going to say, I think that's maybe when I got the last charge. I remember some baseball. Yeah. But no football.
Yeah. And so they're towards the end of the baseball season before. And that's the funny thing. When they missed the playoffs, I had this, like, I was kind of relieved. I was like, okay, like I can just let that rest. Because if they would have made the playoffs, I would have kept watching. And so, I say that all to say, I enjoy sports probably just as much as ever, but I've found other things that I enjoy more, and that I really like doing with my boys, and that are far more fulfilling. And so, and also, we do the whole screen-free thing with our kids, and I've been experimenting more with not being on screens for the sake of entertainment. Obviously, we work on screens, we learn on screens, but when it comes to leisure and entertainment, I've been making a point to do either audio, listen to audiobooks or listen to podcasts. But for entertainment, I've not been going to screens, and I really prefer that. I really think it is a lot more life-giving, and it actually inspires in me a lot more change. Like, I want to go do more when I'm reading or when I'm listening to something, versus when I'm entertaining myself via just watching. There is more, for me, a propensity just to do more of that. Like, I'm just going to keep consuming. So that's another sideline motivator. But
yeah, I would say it's not how they view you or something that they see you value, because our kids are at the stage, especially a couple of our children, are big time talkers. Like, if it comes to if they're thinking it, they're also saying it, which is a relief. It's the ones that don't say stuff, you just wonder what's going on in their head.
Yes.
And when it comes to what daddy likes and what daddy loves to do, sports never comes up.
Yeah.
They never ask you to watch sports. They never talk about sports ever. Like, they talk about wars and battles and the books that they're reading, and the books that you're reading, and stuff they want to do outside, and stuff their friends are doing outside, and lighting fires and building forts. And like, football, baseball, basketball never comes up ever.
Yeah.
Would you say?
No, I mean, we shoot hoops.
They love to play with you.
Yeah, we love playing sports.
They love throwing the football and hitting baseball.
And it's funny because my dad would always talk about how he hit this point. I'm just now remembering this, where he was fanatical about the Seattle Seahawks, the Supersonics, and the Mariners. and he grew up being a huge fan, going to all the games. And it was when he was about 30 years old that he had the conviction. He's like, man, how come I can remember, the whole, all the starting lineups batting average for the 8 seasons ago, the Mariners from 8 seasons ago, but I can't memorize scripture. And I really was identifying that there for a bit, where it's like, man, I know quarterback's QBR rating, but I'm not memorizing scripture that much. And it's funny how there's that coming of that full circle. It's like, I'm at that stage again, and I don't want this to be who I'm characterized by. And I say that because my dad really wasn't characterized by it growing up. He was a true fan of all those things. And then he prioritized us kids, and he would enjoy bringing us to games. Variously, we'd go to a couple Mariners games every year, went to a Seahawks game with him. We went and watched the Supersonics. And so great memories from that, but we didn't have TV. He wasn't watching the games every week or every night. And I really appreciated that about him.
Yeah. I think you had some things, like you said, you'd listen to the radio like at 11, you would listen to the radio, right? Like, how did you follow sports at 11?
Oh, well, growing up, it was 7:10 Cairo in Seattle. It was 15:45 past the hour. They'd have sports updates. Okay. And so I'd be able to hear the score from the night before, or hear who they're going to play. And then we would listen to the Mariners.
I'm saying, like, there was a value system there, though, on sports that I don't think we have.
Yes.
Because I'm assuming by, like, how your sport life is going, I don't think at 11, Leon would be into that.
Right. Yeah, at this trajectory?
At this trajectory.
Yeah.
Unless it's something you chose to get more into.
Yeah.
Which maybe you will, maybe you won't.
I don't think so. And that's actually another thing, too, is that we lived, close to a sports city in Seattle.
Yeah.
And growing up, and then we're here in Coeur d'Alene, and it's just, obviously Seattle's not
really
crazy far away, but there's not like a huge sports culture here.
Or even like you guys live next to your grandparents, and they would watch the games and stuff. So anyway.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a good question. It's one of those things, I think, dads that are sports fans, dads that like video games, dads that like movies or certain media. I know this is how it is for me. It really makes you consider it once anew when you're raising children and when you've got sons, and you are telling them your value system every day. Like, this is what I value. And they look up to you so much, and they are going to gravitate towards your value system. And it's convicting. It's just like, wow, okay, what am I telling them I really like? What am I telling them I love spending my time doing? And it's exciting because we have so much influence in their life. And at no matter what age, that's the other thing too, is I really too feel like my appetites have changed. Mm-hmm. Like, I just straight up don't have that craving or that want to know like I once had. I'm interested in different things now that I think are a lot more life-giving and beneficial to my family. So that's fun to know too. Just that boosts your confidence, talking about growth or change.
Yeah.
When you grow, when you truly move on from a habit that wasn't serving you and form a new habit, that just grows your confidence. Then you realize you can do that in other areas of your life. And so that's fun for me.
Yeah. And I feel like we're going to potentially get women asking, because we do get this, about like what to do if their husbands are really, really, really into sports and it like rubs them wrong. And let me tell you, Elisha not being as into sports as when we first got married had nothing to do with me being in a bad mood whenever he checked the scores or wanted to watch a game or whatever. That was like, that just leads to bad memories and regret.
That's funny. Yes.
So let me tell you, if you can just love your husband and deal with your own life and let him enjoy watching sports guilt-free, if that's something that he enjoys doing, then do that. Like, guilting your husband is never a healthy motivator, and it just leads to resentment in the long run. And honestly, you changed your appetite on sports after I stopped caring.
That is funny. Yeah.
Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, because there was tons of friction going back. I mean,
especially our first year, probably.
What
first
would you
3
say?
years.
3?
Yeah, 3 years.
Yeah, where I would
was
have
so
to,
bad, you guys.
like you said, I would have to go hide to check scores or I don't know,
sorry.
silly things like that. I mean, it's embarrassing that's how much I wanted to do it, obviously. But like you said, it wasn't some motivational speech that you gave me that sent me away from sports.
Honey, this isn't a good use of your time.
Yeah, but would you say though, Katie, if it truly is, just from a wife's perspective, because nagging is never helpful. No. It's like always the wrong, and taking like a self-righteous, pious approach is never helpful. And you've never really done that. And so I can, No.
I'm over here being so protective, honey.
But what is nice is when you make clear when something's a problem, and then so make your requests made known unto your husband, and
Like,
so
don't be passive aggressive.
Exactly.
Sit down, let them know how you feel about it.
Yeah.
And in a nice, respectful way, be like, hey, this bugs me, and this is why, and maybe have some reasons of like what it's taking away from. Is it just bothering you that he's sitting there relaxing and you're working? Or is it bothering you that the kids are becoming sports fanatics and that wasn't what you had in mind for your kids? Or is it bothering you the commercials or having the TV on all the time? Or like, what is it about the sports that's frustrating you? So be clear on what that is, and then be open to him either taking that and giving it validity, or being like, well, I get that, but this is why it's important to me, and coming back with that.
Sure.
And then you just know where each other stand. And I feel like we had those conversations, not very respectfully. I was just annoying. And then you would tell me, well, first of all, Elisha wasn't like that into sports. Like, you wouldn't watch full games.
Never.
Man, we went to a friend's house one time to watch a full game. I did not know, like, football is 4 hours. Literally 4 hours.
Yeah.
Like, I got up at halftime and was like, I'm going to go shopping.
Yeah. I remember that.
That's so much healthier than watching this game.
Yeah, that was funny.
I've just never sat on my rear end for 4 hours ever.
Yeah.
Anyways, it was noteworthy. And the fact that this happens weekly, like, I know it's like a big party and like a lot of awesome memories for a lot of families out there. So I'm not knocking it. I just didn't grow up with that. And so it was really like rocking my world that this was even a thing.
Even in my most like when I was single, a big time sports fan, a Seahawks fan, when we had our good seasons, I couldn't watch a full game. Yeah. I would, be working out, or I would do something while I'm watching it too. I'd like work out and watch it, or I would wait. I'd be at work and then I'd go watch the second half, or I'd watch the end.
Like, friends will go over to each other's house and like visit, and it's like social and everything. So whatever, it's great for other people. But the point is I didn't like it, and then we talked about it. You told me why you liked it and how, and then I just had to let it go. And then you just
got over it.
Yeah. So it was a win-win for me. Well, what's funny is it wasn't this huge relief when you stopped, because I didn't care anymore.
Yeah.
But I do think it's really great that our boys aren't.
Me too. I like my life better when I'm not a sports fan. I just like doing more than watching. So.
Yeah. Okay, this is a quick one. What kind of car do you have that can fit 5 kids in car seats?
What? 5 kids? Can we legally answer this question?
Just answer the question.
Well, we've got, okay. Wait, we're like not going to tell them about our seating situation. We've got a Ford Explorer. I don't know how it works, but it does. It's miraculous.
Strap one kid on the roof.
No, it's got 7 seats in there. We need to, we've said it before, we hate buying cars. It's
what Elisha's referring to, our 6-year-old, he's almost 7.
Yeah.
He does not sit in a car seat. He sit, that really skinny, like it shouldn't even be a seat in between 2 car seats. He sits there.
Yeah. I was referring to more like when our kids are bouncing around the whole car and nobody's buckled in. I'm joking. I'm joking,
Elisha.
I'm joking.
That was my family growing up, but that's not your family.
Yeah, I'm pretty safety conscious about
having
the kids buckled up and stuff.
Yeah.
And I like tighten the straps on the car seats. I don't like
Yeah, you're legit. It's just that our 6-year-old, we have some he has some friends and stuff like that are still in car seats, and then I feel bad all of a sudden. Like, it's not a rule in Idaho that he has to be in a car seat, but depending on what state you live in or what your preferences are for your kids' buckling safety, that might not be kosher.
Yeah.
So anyways, that said, we don't fit 5 car seats, and you couldn't. You could max fit 4. So there you have it. And also Elisha can make 5 car seats and enough stuff to go on a 3-week trip fit in any car. He is a miracle worker.
Wow.
When it comes to packing. Other things too, but I really appreciate you when it comes to packing?
Well, that's funny. This is the question. This was right below the one I was going to ask. What is a good compromise if I don't like my husband playing video games? There you go. I've never played video games, so I don't know if we
wouldn't
can
have
speak
married
to that.
someone who played video games.
Well,
I'm
there you
serious.
go.
Like, it was too big of a... It's nice when you get married and you know what already rubs you way wrong. And I couldn't handle a guy that played video games. And so it's tough if that rubs you wrong now and he played games then and it didn't bug you, or it didn't bug you enough to be a deal breaker. And then you get together and then he's like, what's the big deal? You married me and I played video games. And Dr. Laura, I've got to say this. I've said it on another episode and you could take or leave her advice. But she has this statement, and it's, you got to remember what animal you brought home. And I think that's a phenomenal word of advice for a wife, because we do love to get married and then change our husbands. And we have to remember, if he played video games before we got married, we signed on to a lifetime with a man that played video games. And so we don't just want to poke him with a pitchfork now for the rest of his life.
Yeah, and I
That
will
has to be a
say,
conviction on his own part.
again, I never played video games. I just didn't. I was never around them, and I never had an interest to. But I had my fair share of bad habits that I brought into marriage. And I will say, you being who you were and living the way you were living, what does it say? Having your quiet conduct. What is that passage? Is that
Was it 1 Peter 3?
Having your quiet conduct can convert. I mean, that's talking about a non-believing husband, but your discipline, your character, your habits inspired me to change. And that I think that says a lot to how you were living. I do think you've got the ability as a wife and likewise as a husband to truly inspire change in your spouse. You are the most influential person in their lives. And so it's pretty fun to think about how much you can inspire your husband or your wife. And if nothing's breaking through, you've got to like reassess your strategy. You're like, okay, maybe what are my tactics here? Maybe the vision I'm painting for him actually isn't exciting to him or to anybody. And so I do think you gave me vision and inspiration for life, where I was excited to get out of bed at 5 o'clock. I was excited to not spend as much time watching sports. I was excited to do a bunch of things that maybe I didn't want to do before.
And you inspire me a ton too. The way these questions are phrased, we're focusing on the husband, but I've changed so much since being married to Elisha. And just, we call it the touch of silence, which my siblings this week at Thanksgiving, Kelsey came up to me and she's like, I saw Elisha give you the touch of silence. We joke about it because I used to really just say whatever was on my mind, and that's very hurtful, and it leads to a lot of regret. And words matter. The Bible speaks to the power of the tongue, and I was very flippant, and I'm still too flippant with my words, but I was kind of like, I'll say it now and apologize later if I need to. And Elisha has really helped me just be like, okay, Katie, you're going too far, or your emotions are clouding this conversation, and you're going to say something you regret, or you're going to hurt someone's feelings or step on someone's toes. And so it's just, obviously people who love to picture Elisha as a overbearing overlord and me a doormat will love this idea of a touch of silence.
I know, it sounds great.
But we would be married, and I just feel his hand come over and grab my thigh and just be like, okay, like we're getting into kind of sketchy waters here. And but it's like this, I'm so thankful for it, because it was this clarifying, like, oh, what am I saying? And I come down off my emotional clouded vision all of a sudden and start paying attention to the words I was actually speaking. And I feel like you've trained me a lot. I've gotten a lot better.
Train up your wife in the way she should go.
I have gotten a lot better at catching myself now. But, 7 days with your family and the touch of silence might need to come out again and remind you what you should say and what you shouldn't. So, that's one area that was a very big weakness of mine that I still tend toward being a weakness that you've really grown me in. And
grown you in. You're sounding like I'm just like
You've
child
helped me
training
grow.
you.
You've helped me grow. I've helped you grow.
No doubt.
You were just saying how you've helped me grow. I
Yes.
mean, how I've helped you grow.
Yeah, and
And it
that
goes
is
both ways. You've just inspired me. Like in any public setting, Elisha is the wise guy that sits in the corner, that is so cautious with his words, that
I never sit in the corner.
that says
What the
things
heck?
that matter. You know, like the sage in the corner. A wise man keepeth his words until afterward. That's in the Proverbs, and that really stuck out to me because you are the guy that sits there until people go, Elisha, what do you think?
I don't know. I'm not antisocial. I love contributing to the conversation.
No,
People
that's
don't need
not
to
what I'm
like
saying.
draw me out of my shell. I don't like the way you're painting me right now, Katie.
What I mean is this would happen with my dad a lot too. People ask for his opinion because he's not just throwing it in their face.
Yeah.
And I can be the throw it in your face person, and you wait, you have your opinion, but you will wait and let everyone get all their words out. And then people come to you and ask you for your opinion. Yeah. I think that's a sign of a wise man. You can have the self-control of your tongue.
Thanks. Yeah, that is an interesting dynamic. Because we've talked, I think we even did a podcast episode on it. Like don't be your husband's mother or something like that. Stop mothering your husband. And I was just thinking about that in regards to shortcomings in each other's lives. It's just not, you want to be co-laborers. You want to see each other as these like equal, as you know, these equal partners. Obviously it's not a partnership, it's a marriage, but to view each other as peer to peer and not talk down to each other at any point, but to really just call them up and to inspire them.
Yeah. I mean, I think of another area that you've inspired me. Maybe that's more, well, the one area that you have inspired me is like with theology, and you were willing to, for the sake of my immaturities, not bring it up for a couple years. And sometimes we have to play the long game with our spouses. Elisha wanted to be able to talk to
It's
me
all
about
a long
these things.
game with your spouse. I mean,
Yeah,
you're in it
it's
for the
always
long
a
haul.
long game. That's
Yeah.
the truth. But you wanted to be able to talk to me about these things. These things still matter to you. It still rubbed you wrong when I give you my trite, well, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. But you waited and you were patient and you were gracious with me. And I think that regardless of which spouse has the immaturity, sometimes we just have to sit back and wait until the time is right.
Yeah. It wasn't hard for me to find the other benefits that came with our marriage. So
People really rubs them wrong when you say stuff like that.
what? I'm talking about just like our friendship.
My
and-
personality.
Yeah, your personality.
My great personality.
We should wrap it up, Katie babe.
Whoa, did the light just turn blue?
Well, I think your eyes are,
Okay.
I don't know. Folks, thank you all so much for listening. Thank you for taking the time to put these questions in. We love getting to as many as we can when we have the opportunity to. Talk to you next week.
Bye.